Hi everybody, this is Czapnik from the Jewish Learning Exchange. I hope you and yours are well. The sound quality I hope is okay. I don't have all my equipment here. I'm actually in New Jersey at my grandson's bar mitzvah. You can see my son's beautiful menorah in the background. Our hearts and minds and prayers, of course, are for the hostages and the injured and the Israeli soldiers and everybody affected around the world by the terrible tragedies. And may the Almighty help. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Vayeshev, and it also is the first day of Chanukah. And I'd like to talk about miracles. How do we perform miracles? This would be a nice lesson. And actually there are three components to it. Number one is having faith. Even when things look bleak, to maintain faith. Yosef did it in this week's portion. He was sold, ripped away from his family by his brothers, sold down to slavery in Egypt, accused of an act that he did not do, thrown into jail, and the entire time he talked about God, thanked God, believed in God, and was very open about it. We have to understand that Ein Od Milvado, there's nobody but God. He's the only one who's in charge, and He's the one who can make it happen. And God can do anything beyond our imagination. And we don't have to come up with the solutions. God can come up with the solutions. Yosef had no idea how things would resolve themselves, even though he was languishing in prison. I imagine he couldn't have figured out how things are going to end up, which we'll find out about in next week's portion. So we don't have to figure out all the solutions. We'll leave it to God to do that. Let God reveal Himself and do the ultimate revelation and help us that way. Number two, prayer. Talk to God about anything and everything you need, big and small, because God listens. He may not always say yes, but He always listens. And number three, we should be miraculous. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's a very, very amazing story about a man named Rabbi Moshe Chaim Geffen of blessed memory. At age 13, he was kidnapped and ultimately became a slave laborer in 18 different Nazi camps. And besides somehow being able to miraculously survive all of that, his parents and siblings were all murdered, and he was left with nothing, but he survived. One occasion he was digging a ditch, and dirt flicked up and hit one of the Nazi soldiers in the face. The Nazi pulled out his gun and shot at him, and it hit his shovel instead. Another time he was standing only a few feet from going into the gas chamber. And suddenly the Nazi called and said, "Clean this up, you dirty Jew." Because the Nazi yelled a horse had defecated on the Nazi's boot and he wanted the Jew to clean it up. And sure enough, that saved him because the line ended. And he was hung by the Nazis twice. And each time, the first time he was hung, he called out and said, "Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, God is one." And the air raid sirens went off. And they thought, and he was able to run away. But then they caught him again, and they hung him again. And again he said, "Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, God is one." And he was able to escape again. But his grandson was wondering what merit. He had so many miracles, one after the other, to save him. And he realized there must have been something special about him. And he had found a piece of people dying and starving all over, and he found a tiny piece of bread, and he saved it in case of emergency, when he would be at his last breath. And he saved it on him. And one day, a man collapsed next to him, and he said, "I can't go on anymore, I have nothing, I can't do this, I can't." And he ran, in spite of the Germans possibly killing him for this, and pulled out the piece of bread and gave it to him. So the grandson realized that's why he was saved so miraculously, because he did the miraculous. He went against his nature. Self-preservation is a nature. We understand this. But he said, I have to try to help this fellow Jew and see what I can do to revive him. And he gave him his last piece of bread. So that's the answer to our question. You want to know how to do miracles? Well, yes, it takes faith, and it takes prayer, and it takes working on ourselves to perfect ourselves in a way that's beyond our nature. Maybe it's developing greater character, working on our character and breaking bad habits, doing things that are difficult for us. This man was saved. He suffered for 5 years. But in the end, he was saved by a shovel, a siren, and horse manure. And he became a walking miracle. And part of that was because he himself made himself into a miracle. So may we be strengthened during these days of Chanukah, where we can turn to the Almighty and ask Him for help, and ask Him for miracles even, to resolve the issues in Israel. Hostages should come home. Israeli soldiers should be saved. Those that are sick should be healed. Those that are injured should be healed. And realize that that's what Chanukah is about. The miracle of that we were saved from the Greek Assyrians miraculously. We were outgunned, outnumbered. The miracle that the oil lasted for 8 days instead of just 1 day. All of these are there to show us God can do anything, and we have to become a vessel and a vehicle for His miracles by going beyond our nature and becoming better and better and better. So a wonderful Shabbat and a very happy and healthy and joyous Chanukah. May Hashem reveal Himself in such a way that it's so clear that Einoi Milvade, there's no one but Him. And in the season of miracles, may we merit to see those beautiful miracles from Him. All the best.